Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Paul Mackay from Analogue Wonderland and I'm here with another film review. Today we are going to be talking all about Adox CHS 102. And if you think that's more numbers than you expected, then don't worry, I will explain everything. Enjoy. Whether you are new to film photography or a long-time analogue enthusiast, our channel covers all things film, from tips and tricks, film reviews to how-to videos. Subscribe now and keep those notifications turned on so that you never miss a beat. Happy shooting! The brand Adox goes back to 1860 when a German photochemical plant was founded under that brand. Now clearly it's gone through a load of changes since then, as most of our analog photography brands have done so, but it has remained German at heart. It has a small manufacturing facility just outside Berlin, but they actually finished the film in Switzerland, in Mali. So yes, a current lovely German brand. Adox used to make some legendary films. So KB14 and KB17 were some of the world's first thin films and were known in the US in particular as the German Wonder film. They branched into colour, they hold many patents of colour film, and you may have followed actually along with their journey recently with Colour Mission, which they brought back. It's a bit of a digression, but it's worth it. They worked to create a brand new colour film. They managed to run an entire batch of it, but unfortunately the partner that they were working with then went bankrupt and has disappeared from the world in that form. So they have a limited amount of volume that they're currently selling in smaller batches throughout the year and using the profits from that in order to fund a new bit of research and a new partnership and a new run of colour. So hopefully Adox will return to the colour film world shortly. In the meantime, they make black and white film, they make paper, they make chemistry, all out of their German plant. They used to also make 35mm films, so you perhaps have an Adox 35mm camera or similar sat at home, but they're not as well known as a lot of the other camera brands from that time. So about this film in particular, so CHS 102. So the two, let's talk about that first. So like many films today, emulsions have been brought back from the dead, they've been resurrected. You know, Ektachrome was discontinued before being brought back. And when they're brought back, often they have different slight formulations than original. That's because technology has evolved, new regulations have been brought in so that some chemicals can't be used in the same quantities or in the same way before. So you have to do some small reformulations. Ilford, I think, do it just constantly rolling with a lot of their stuff and had to do it over the last 20 years. But sometimes when films come back or emulsions come back, manufacturers want to differentiate, and that's true here. So CHS 100, there was a CHS 101, and this is a reformulation, but with a lot of the characteristics and to provide a lot of the same final results as you'd expected from the original CHS. So what is that? Well, actually 2 is quite a useful way of remembering things. This film has 2 antihalation layers. It has 2 layers of sensitivity in one single emulsion. And as soon as I started to read about this, that reminds me of Berger Panchro, which talks as well a lot about having dual capture of light within one chemical layer. And that tends to give a better exposure latitude because you can basically tweak those layers slightly and still capture a huge amount of light across a different range. And that's one of the things that Adox says about CHS, is that it will capture a greater range of exposure than you would normally expect from a black and white film. The 100 is slightly easier to understand. It is 100 ISO. Actually, interestingly, when I said that about the Berger Panchro, I did notice when you look at the product page, one of the most commonly bought films alongside CHS is Berger Panchro. So clearly, if you like Berger, you might enjoy this, and vice versa. It might give you a similar look. It has a clear PET base. And of course, what that means is that you might find it a lot easier to scan because there is nothing in the background that will then distort or provide a color tone or a shift or anything when you scan. Some people ironically find it slightly harder. If they're very used to a certain base, they can turn it around quite easily and their scanner might be confused by the clearness. It also means that you can experiment with black and white slide developing if you wish to be a bit more experimental. It's not designed for that necessarily, not like some of the other ones like Fomapan R is, as an example, but you can do it, and because it has a clear base, you will be able to then hold up to the light and see a tiny positive photo of whatever you took, which is always super fun to do. Adox also call out the fact that it has anti-light piping, which is why I'm a bit more blasé about holding it up around here. Not all films do. We've talked quite a lot about some of them, including a lot of the FPP ones, the ones that are respooled from movie films, often are very susceptible to light piping. This has anti-light piping in, which is brilliant. It means you can be a little bit less careful about how you load it. You can load it probably in a bit brighter light without worrying too much. Don't go over the top there. I know people are going to send me frames now with light exposure, but it is something there. It also has a non-curling layer, so this should, again, hopefully, be relatively easy to scan. The look that you'll get is a nice retro look. Adox are renowned for having slightly more detailed and sharper black and white films, and again, you can hear that as soon as you say the sort of 2 chemical emulsions in one layer, you know that they're not just putting the minimum amount of effort in to get a photo out. The detailed photos that you can see come through are absolutely stunning. And when you look at what people say about this film, that's what they talk about. They talk about the retro look, they talk about the detail that they can get. Now, one reviewer did say that actually they didn't notice the wide exposure latitude. They found that shooting it at 100 left them with quite a lot of blocking when they then scanned. Is that to do with the fact that it's a clear base? They weren't sure, but they are going to now shoot the next one at ISO 80 to give themselves a little bit more wiggle room with that exposure. But theoretically speaking, this should be able to cope from 50 up to 200 without any issues at all. You should be able to get some gorgeously crisp, lovely contrasty black and white photos from this. Another photographer has called it a blast from the past and said that when they were learning photography, Adox was, as part of its reputation for being more high quality, was also known as the more serious film for serious amateurs. So it could be quite a bit off-putting if you thought, oh, okay, it's only for people who are more technically minded, not for me. And actually they found, coming back to it now with the confidence maybe of being a bit older and wiser, not held back by any concerns. They shot it, really enjoyed it, and actually notice the real difference, the step up in quality and the step up in the image quality that they can get as a result of shooting Adox versus some of the more basic black and white films that are on the market. I think in summary, I'd say that this film gives you a really lush black and white photo, so not too contrasty unless you want to whack up the lighting and really lean into that side. It'll give you a really nice look, really gorgeous. And so for myself, it's a bit sunnier now, at least at the moment. We're moving into spring, so ISO 100 isn't anywhere near as intimidating as it was in December, January. I still will wait for a nice outdoor day, I think. Enjoy it when it does have lots of light to really bring to life that richness. And then I may be tempted to go into the lab and play around with reversal processing, just because black and white slides have to be seen to be believed. Really one of the most fun things to do. So there we go. That's me. That's the film review for this week. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, please do like and subscribe. Otherwise, we will see you again next week.